as a carpenter building homes while I worked my way through college. For the past 17 years, I've been protecting and defending your constitutional rights in the courtroom. I'm currently protecting our rights of our most vulnerable, our children, as the guardian ad litem attorney advocate for the children of Brunswick, Columbus, and Bladen County. I've spent my career serving our country, our state, and our communities, so I ask that you continue your confidence by voting for me, Brian Wilson, in the primary elections on May 17th. Thank you.
There has never been a better time to go to college. Class of 2021 high school graduates, you don't want to miss this. You may be eligible to have your tuition and fees covered at Cape Fear Community College for 2 years, beginning this fall through the North Carolina Longleaf Commitment Grant. This is money that does not need to be repaid and covers tuition toward a degree or towards transfer credit to a 4-year school. This is your chance to make it happen at CFCC for free. Find out more at cfcc.edu/NCgrant.
Hello, I'm Matt Bennett with WWAY News. Governor Roy Cooper reacting to the deadliest school shooting in nearly a decade. Cooper releasing a statement shortly after the shooting in Texas that left 21 dead, saying, quote, "What a devastating and unspeakable tragedy at a Texas elementary school where at least 14 students were killed by a shooter." He added, "Our hearts are heavy for their loved ones and the community." And we're learning more about what led up to a double shooting in Curie Beach that left 2 people dead. In a newly released 911 call, 61-year-old William Bennett can be heard admitting that he shot his neighbor, 55-year-old John Garisto, and complaining that Garisto had been feeding foxes. The 911 call lasts for nearly 4 hours, but shortly after 8 minutes, the remainder of the call is redacted. A second gunshot was heard from Bennett's home on the scene. He was pronounced dead. In other news around the Cape Fear, educating parents about the dangers of drugs commonly abused by school-aged students was the focus of a meeting at the New Hanover County Board of Education building last night. The event was hosted by the Poe Center of Raleigh, an organization that targets parents of upper elementary, middle, and high school students. The program, called Drugs Uncovered, introduces parents to trends regarding alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs and health risks associated with using and abusing them, especially in kids and adolescents. And a new tiny home community in Wilmington is beginning to finally look like a neighborhood. Eden Village is meant to address local homelessness, providing tiny homes at affordable renting prices for the chronically homeless, helping them find jobs and opportunity. Yesterday, the group set 4 new homes on their foundation, bringing the running tiny house tally to 6. Wayne Jenkins has been homeless for more than 6 months and watched his home as it was wheeled into place. He says he's looking forward to having a safe place to live. Eden Village will be a community of 31 tiny homes on Cornegay Avenue. For more on these stories, you can head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Matt Bennett. Have a great day.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Storm Track 3 forecast. It's going to be a comfortable day here in the Cape Fear with temperatures right around normal for this time of year in the low 80s. Away from the coast, we'll top off in the upper 70s, close to the low 80s along the immediate coastline. We're expecting partly cloudy skies throughout the day today with a little bit of sunshine breaking through this afternoon. As for tonight, our temperatures drop down to the middle and upper 60s overnight with mostly cloudy skies sticking around. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by 2 Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to 2menandatruck.com. 2menandatruck.com.
This is Radio Free Dixie. Let's talk about Confederate diversity. Yes, Confederate. The Northern victors in the War for Southern Independence don't want you to know that thousands of African American Southerners served in the Confederate military. President Jefferson Davis was so impressed with their service that he recommended to the Confederate Congress that they be emancipated after the South won its independence. After the war, thousands of black veterans collected state war pensions, just like other Confederate veterans, and they attended annual reunions of the United Confederate Veterans. The Sons of Confederate Veterans invite you to learn the truth about your Southern heritage and join with us to make Dixie great again. Please visit us at makedixie.greatagain.org. That's makedixie.greatagain.org.
Join Big Talker Network is as easy as asking for it. Program your digital home assistants such as Google Home, Alexa, and Siri to stream Big Talker Network content by simple voice command. Enjoy convenient hands-free access to program whenever you want, however you want by asking for Big Talker.
Hey, welcome back to the Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad, right here on the Big Talker Network, bigtalker.live. Download the app for Android and iOS devices. It's the best app for your phone that you could ever imagine. That's right. Peruse the website with content, schedule of content and stuff, you know. You can email us with any questions, comments, concerns, critiques, or compliments you may have, because we cannot improve without your help. The Big Talker. So yesterday I went offline about, 12:30, 1 o'clock. Had to pack up and get ready to do the show from Bolivia at the Brunswick County GOP. And I didn't hear anything because I was pretty much dedicated to doing my gig. And when I got home, oh man, so we are not going to talk about Texas this morning on this show until somebody who knows something about it, because I don't. And I'm too disappointed. So we're going to go to Florida back in October of 21. A woman aged 20, right when they know everything, arrested for battering her mother with a pair of tossed tacos. There has been domestic taco battery, police say, in Florida. Braden Langford, 20, was arrested late Saturday evening for allegedly striking her mother in the head with 2 thrown burritos inside the family's residence in the Tampa Bay area. Okay, so according to the arrest affidavit, Langford and the 50-year-old victim were arguing about the cleanliness of the house when little Miss Langford became upset and threw 2 tacos from the dining room. The tacos struck the victim in the head as she was sitting on a couch. When cops arrived at the home in Largo, the victim had food debris all around her on the couch and on the back of her shirt, the police officer noted. Cops say Langford admitted to the taco tossing, but said she did it out of frustration and did not mean to strike her mother. Langford's mother was not injured by the airborne tacos, which are disappointingly not further described in the affidavit. We don't know if these were chicken tacos, fish tacos, because we are in Florida for this story, or if they were beef tacos, Taco Bell tacos, if these were like, what's that, burritos bigger than your head, but these are tacos, so it would be a taco bigger than your head. Langford was charged with domestic battery, a misdemeanor, and booked into the county jail. She was released from custody yesterday morning on a $100 bond. Judges ordered to have her to have no contact with her mother. Of course, that ruins all the Taco Tuesdays in her future. Pretty much done with that. So be careful with your tacos in Florida. All kinds of craziness, people. We don't need weapons. Oh, Florida and Missouri. Let's see what this connection is. Drug suspect claimed his meth was intended for medicinal use. Huh. After being found in possession of a pair of glass smoking pipes and a clear crystal substance in drug packaging, a Missouri man told police that the items were intended for medicinal methamphetamine usage, according to criminal complaint Matthew Cusumano, 46 years old and wise, was stopped around 2:45 in the morning Friday by cops who spotted him riding a bicycle without lights in Madeira Beach, Florida. Oh. Missouri man in Florida on a bicycle at 2:45, no lights. That's... Well, a records check revealed that Cusumano was wanted on a fugitive warrant issued in June after he failed to appear in Missouri court on a felony drug charge. Imagine that. After Cusamanos was taken into custody on the out-of-state warrant, police searched him and found 2 drug pipes and over 10 grams of crystal substance that Cusimano reportedly identified as methamphetamine. Cusimano, a deputy sheriff's reported, claimed that the confiscated items were medicinal methamphetamine uses that support time in the subject. Anyway, despite the explanation, Cusimano was charged with narcotics possession and possession of drug paraphernalia. He's being held in Pinellas and then shipped off to Missouri for the fugitive warrants. Oh, this is awesome. Is this Florida too? Tell me it's Florida. Nope, this one's Missouri. Missouri. If you're going to take a photo of your product, okay, James Kurtz needs to work on his photo composition, right? A lot of us do. The Missouri man, James Kurtz, 38, sought this week to sell a new catalytic converter via a post on Facebook Marketplace. Kurtz included a photo of the boxed auto parts up for sale. What Kurtz did not realize was the image also showed a large bag of methamphetamine and a syringe on a table in the photo's background. After a Facebook user tipped cops to the photo, investigators Wednesday searched Kurtz's residence in Reed Springs, a city outside Branson in Missouri. Seized meth and a .38 caliber Taurus pistol, which is barred from possession due to prior felony convictions. During police questioning, Kurtz said that he was unaware that the meth and syringe were in the Facebook photo. Charged with drug trafficking and unlawful possession of a weapon, Kurtz is locked up without bond in the Stone County Jail. His rap sheet includes convictions for endangering the welfare of a child, narcotics distribution, property damage, narcotics possession, violating an order of protection, domestic assault, witness tampering, and resisting arrest. I would say he's in a good place right now. Yep, I would say he's in a better place right now. These are just some archive stories because I am not going to visit what's going on today because it's just insane, and I just don't have the, I don't know, credentials, is that the term? I don't have enough. I mean, it's aggravating, it's angry, it's angering. But the reactions to it are not necessarily going to be fair or balanced or informed at the moment. So I'm going to go with previous. We got some from Florida, some from North Carolina, but Florida just seems to be like the hot spot. Like this woman jailed last September for Cuddle Scuttle. I'll have to figure this one out. All right. A Florida woman is accused of battering her boyfriend when he asked to cuddle with her in their bed. According to investigators, Kiesel Anthony, 45, was in bed with her boyfriend around 2 a.m. Oh, look, there it is, 2 a.m. when the 42-year-old victim asked to cuddle with defendant, and defendant said no. Anthony, cops allege, got mad at her boyfriend for trying to cuddle and began yelling and screaming at him in their St. Petersburg home. After throwing a fan, Anthony grabbed the pole from the fan and hit the victim in the back of the right leg, causing a visible injury. Anthony was arrested for domestic battery and booked into the county jail. She was held on a $2,500 bond and ordered to have no contact with the victim. Love has no boundaries. In February, in the previous February, Anthony was charged with battering the same man, and she subsequently entered into a deferred prosecution agreement requiring her to complete a 12-month domestic violence program, which included 29 weeks of counseling. Prosecutors have moved to revoke that agreement in light of Anthony's more recent arrest. And, of course, her rap sheet includes prior convictions for welfare fraud, disorderly conduct, evidence tampering, criminal mischief, failure to appear in court, driving with a suspended or revoked license, and leaving the scene of an accident. Another one of America's best. Ooh, label conscious. Look at this. The man's arrested in a Gucci shirt with the tag still on it. This is awesome. What is the point of wearing Gucci if nobody knows you are wearing Gucci? Wilfred Caesar, 24, was arrested early Monday morning following a traffic stop in Florida. A trooper clocked his Mercedes. Okay, so the guy has a Mercedes, but he steals his clothes. That's good money management and priorities. Anyway, subsequent search of the vehicle yielded an assortment of packaged marijuana, a scale, and $4,300 in cash. Caesar and his passenger were arrested on multiple drug charges, including possession with intent. He was booked into Orange County Jail, and he was freed on a $5,100 bond. I don't think I understand this one. Isaiah Kirby in South Carolina, September 20 last year. Following his arrest that week, the South Carolinian 18 was charged Friday with 2 counts of attempted murder, narcotics possession, and possession of a and possession of a weapon during a violent crime, according to court records. Kirby was being held in the Spartanburg County Jail on $55,000 bond in connection with the 4 felony counts. The teen resides in Cowpens, a small town outside Spartanburg. Of course, the guy was apparently a up-and-coming hair model, and, as for his lustrous flow, he may have difficulty maintaining those glorious locks behind bars since access to product is limited for detainees. Oh, yeah, I am not going there. Oh, here's, tell me this is Florida also. Yeah! Recently, there was like a big riot or dust-up of some sort in Florida during the topless week or whatever it was, and all the Jeep guys are supposed to head down, and then it just went nuts. But anyway, naked woman, this would have been September of last year. Naked woman who was 28 at the time drove golf cart through scene of armed standoff. A naked woman on a midnight golf cart joyride was arrested early Sunday when she drove through a police perimeter in Florida. You didn't see the arrows? I didn't see the Indians either. While officers were involved in an armed standoff with Jessica Smith, 28, drove past several patrol cars while behind the wheel of a golf cart. Smith allegedly ignored a police command to depart the area and continued to approach the target house of where the armed suspect was on the roof. When Smith, police say, refused to exit the golf cart, she was assisted. She was helped out of the golf cart and arrested. Around 12:05 a.m., Smith smelled of alcohol and was completely nude, according to a criminal complaint charging her with obstruction, a misdemeanor. The complaint lists Smith's home address as a residence in West Roxbury, Massachusetts. Smith's parents own a home about a mile from where she was arrested in Dunedin, a city in the Tampa Bay area. I don't know. There's been rich white people anyway. Investigators allege that Smith's naked antics put multiple deputies at risk for potentially getting shot at. Smith was released on her own recognizance from the Pinellas County Jail. It doesn't say whether she got to keep the jumpsuit. Right? Because, I mean, she's definitely not going to be hurting for a date anytime soon. So rolling around in a golf cart butt naked is probably like advertising. Oh, I love Florida. This is why I didn't move to Florida. Husband was covered in meat sauce after domestic spaghetti battery. A Florida woman is behind bars after allegedly attacking her husband with a plate of spaghetti and a domestic pasta battery that left the victim covered in meat sauce. Investigators charged that Melissa Daigle, 44, apparently, by then you should know better, was intoxicated last night during a family discussion that turned violent when she threw her dinner, a plate of spaghetti, at her spouse. Well, that marriage is... The spaghetti struck the torso and lap of Daigle's husband. The victim was not injured, just covered in meat sauce, reported a sheriff's deputy who responded to the couple's Largo home. Daigle was arrested for domestic battery and booked into the county jail during a court appearance that morning. A judge barred Daigle from having any contact with her husband and ordered her to be outfitted with an alcohol monitoring device. Yeah, your White Claw days are over, sweetheart. Daigle and the victim had been married for 20 years, and the September 1 confrontation occurred in front of the couple's adult children. Daigle, who works at a Largo bar. Imagine that, an alcoholic working at a bar. Anyway, she was arrested in the previous May for allegedly spitting on her husband and striking him in the face with her keys during a 1 a.m. confrontation in the residence. Prosecutor subsequently declined to pursue charges against Daigle. Last month, police found a Florida couple covered in spaghetti following the 1 a.m. in their Clearwater home. While the combatants were arrested for domestic battery, they decided to decline prosecution. Why the hell are we wasting time? They threw some spaghetti. Right? I at this point, I think it's going to be down to Tide or Era or one of those other clothes cleaning, right? Because if the shirt is white, cotton t-shirt, like one of my favorite band shirts, it gets hit with spaghetti, that shirt's done. And how about appropriating your neighbor's swimming pool? Yeah, that's legit. Apparently, beginning of September last year, a naked woman who reportedly was found skinny dipping in a stranger's pool has copped a plea to a pair of misdemeanor criminal charges. Heather Kennedy, 42, again another educated and wise adult, pleaded no contest to trespass and resisting charges in connection with a bizarre July incident last year at a residence in Port Charlotte. A judge sentenced Kennedy to time she had already served in the Charlotte County Jail and fined her $320. Here's a backstory. Kennedy was arrested after James Clark, 69 years old, called 911 upon returning from a doctor's visit, only to discover a naked white female in the pool. Kennedy was still in the water when sheriff deputies arrived at Clark's home. After being coaxed out of the pool, Kennedy struggled with deputies as they attempted to handcuff her. Days after being released from custody for the pool incursion, Kennedy was arrested for breaking into a truck. Along with burglary, theft, and criminal mischief counts, Kennedy, again, 42 and not very bright, was also charged with possession of drug paraphernalia and introducing contraband into a correctional facility. Whoops. The latter two charges stemmed from the discovery by jailers of methamphetamine pipe inside Kennedy. Kennedy's list of legal troubles also include probation violation charge related to her conviction earlier that year on a felony narcotics possession rap. Prosecutors contend that Kennedy's most recent callers violated terms of an April 2021 probationary sentence. The narcotics case resulted from a traffic stop. Yielded morphine, marijuana, crack, and meth. Kennedy denied ownership of the pills, claiming they were property of a male by the name of Crackhead Chris. That's gonna work. Oh, no, I can't do that one. Well, okay, this is Kentucky. It's short. You'll like this. Tapman, a fan of Batman, arrested for robbing. A man named Tapman was wearing a Batman shirt. Tapman and Batman was arrested for robbing. Alan Tapman, 46, again, an adult, was busted Wednesday for allegedly pilfering merchandise worth more than $500 from a Target store in Lexington, Kentucky. Yeah, whoa, horsey. When he posed for his mugshot, Tapman was wearing a black T-shirt with a Batman logo. Tapman, who was on probation for a prior felony conviction, was being held in the county jail on theft charges, as well as counts related to his alleged failure to appear in court in connection with a separate burglary and theft case. Oh. Pot-bellied Iowan, 19, faces 2 drug charges, police report. This is awesome. Kind of like a pot-bellied pig or your pot-bellied uncle. When a very large bag of marijuana tumbles out of your shirt after the handcuffs have been applied, do not be surprised when the cops ignore your disavowal of ownership of said weed. That's your pot-belly, buddy. Police responding early Saturday. This would have been August last year. Police responding early to calls about a disturbance at an Iowa apartment building discovered Kyle Clark, 19, and another man face-to-face yelling at each other, according to a criminal report. Upon spotting the Iowa City Police Department officers, Clark tried to walk away from cops who noticed he had a very large bulge under his shirt near the waistline, like he was trying to hide something. I'm guessing it wasn't a taco. When cops after the protuberance with a bag of weed, Clark reportedly tried to walk down the stairs, which was a dead end, after Clark was handcuffed around 3 in the morning. Perfect time for these folk. 3 in the morning. A very large bag of marijuana fell from under his shirt. He claimed it wasn't his. The complaint does not indicate whether Clark explained why he had someone else's stash, which weighed about 4 ounces, nestled against his body. That's called a quarter pound, by the way. Clark was charged with felony and misdemeanor drug counts and booked into the Johnson County Jail, from which he was released late Saturday morning. In a similar case around that time, a Louisiana woman denied ownership of methamphetamine that was discovered during a jail strip search. She subsequently pleaded guilty to felony narcotics charge. It's called the prison purse. Oh, here's a sad story. Where's it coming out of? Coming out of Maine. For any of you who enjoy a breakfast pastry, this one's for you. A long-haul trucker back in August is facing multiple criminal charges after crashing his tractor trailer, which was filled with Pop-Tarts and Cheez-Its, while driving early that morning on Interstate 95 in Maine. Police say that Miles McIntyre, another 61-year-old adult Southern California resident, drove off the road and struck rock ledges, causing the truck to roll onto its side, and the vehicle's contents tragically spilled into a ditch. Not even into the road where it could be, picked up and enjoyed, but nah. Dumped it right in the road. Right in the ditch. Not even in the road. In the ditch. Useless. Just destroyed it all. Almost. Come on. My this mouse is running really, really slow, so I'm working on it. What in the hell is that? Okay, so. I think we have time for one last story before taking the news break, and then, we'll see what happens. Driver who was watching a movie when his Tesla struck a cop car gets a legal pass. How's that? So, I guess if you own a luxury brand electric vehicle, you can get away with it. The Tesla owner who was watching a movie when his car, traveling in autopilot mode, struck a North Carolina police cruiser, has walked away from the crash legally unscathed. Prosecutors recently dismissed a pair of charges filed against Devender Goli, following an August 2020 crash on Highway 64 near Raleigh. Golly, a 64-year-old adult doctor, so this guy is apparently educated as well, was cited for watching TV while driving and failing to move over. Both counts were dropped last month by prosecutors, according to a district court filing, which does not offer an explanation for the dismissal, but indicates that Goley's insurer paid more than $28,000 in property damage claims. Goley's lawyer, Henry Neese, write that down. Everybody going to need this man's name. His name is Henry Neese. He did not return the calls about the case, but in an email, Heather Nicole, a spokesman for the prosecutor's office, wrote that the dismissal notice is all we will be legally able to tell you. Have a wonderful day. According to police, Goley was driving home around midnight. Oh, that's another good time. Midnight, right? 2 a.m., 1 a.m., midnight. Why not? That's the best time to make your best decisions right there. He was driving around midnight when his 2015 Tesla Model S sedan struck a Nash County Sheriff's Office squad car, which then caromed, is that the word, into a North Carolina State Highway Patrol vehicle. Oh man! Both cars were stopped on the highway due to an earlier accident. So the guy hit an accident that was already an accident. He created an accident where an accident... And who gave this guy a license? Of course, midnight, watching a movie. Yeah, what could go wrong? Two cops, who were both outside their vehicles, were knocked to the ground in the crash, but not seriously injured. That's good to know. Apparently they had taken Dan's advice and worked on their functional fitness, so they had some sense of balance, and when they fell, they didn't break their hips and God knows what else. Later, a police investigation determined that Goley was watching a movie on his phone while the Tesla traveled in autopilot mode, guided by a series of cameras and ultrasonic sensors. Apparently, significant damage is what they call it. I'm guessing if the insurance company has totaled all the cars involved, there would have been significant damage. So, I'm guessing this article wins the Understatement of the Year award. And with that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back after these messages with our friend Dan Roman, Full Circle Fitness down in the Monkey Junction area of Wilmington, not in Brunswick County. Even though I saw him in Brunswick County last night, that's not where he is. I learned that the hard way, but then again, I am not the most topographically adept human on the planet, so don't go nowhere. The Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad. We'll be right back after these messages. Haha, don't go nowhere.
Hello, I'm Matt Bennett with WWAY News. Governor Roy Cooper reacting to the deadliest school shooting in nearly a decade. Cooper releasing a statement shortly after the shooting in Texas that left 21 dead, saying, quote, "What a devastating and unspeakable tragedy at a Texas elementary school where at least 14 students were killed by a shooter." He added, "Our hearts are heavy for their loved ones and the community." And we're learning more about what led up to a double shooting in Curie Beach that left 2 people dead. In a newly released 911 call, 61-year-old William Bennett can be heard admitting that he shot his neighbor, 55-year-old John Garisto, and complaining that Garisto had been feeding foxes. The 911 call lasts for nearly 4 hours, but shortly after 8 minutes, the remainder of the call is redacted. A second gunshot was heard from Bennett's home on the scene. He was pronounced dead. In other news around the Cape Fear, educating parents about the dangers of drugs commonly abused by school-aged students was the focus of a meeting at the New Hanover County Board of Education building last night. The event was hosted by the Poe Center of Raleigh, an organization that targets parents of upper elementary, middle, and high school students. The program, called Drugs Uncovered, introduces parents to trends regarding alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs and health risks associated with using and abusing them, especially in kids and adolescents. And a new tiny home community in Wilmington is beginning to finally look like a neighborhood. Eden Village is meant to address local homelessness, providing tiny homes at affordable renting prices for the chronically homeless, helping them find jobs and opportunity. Yesterday, the group set 4 new homes on their foundation, bringing the running tiny house tally to 6. Wayne Jenkins has been homeless for more than 6 months and watched his home as it was wheeled into place. He says he's looking forward to having a safe place to live. Eden Village will be a community of 31 tiny homes on Carnegie Avenue. For more on these stories, you can head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Matt Bennett. Have a great day.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist from Elk Carpenter with your Storm Track 3 forecast. It's going to be a comfortable day here in the Cape Fear with temperatures right around normal for this time of year in the low 80s. Away from the coast, we'll top off in the upper 70s, close to the low 80s along the immediate coastline. We're expecting partly cloudy skies throughout the day today with a little bit of sunshine breaking through this afternoon. As for tonight, our temperatures drop down to the middle and upper 60s overnight with mostly cloudy skies sticking around. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by 2 Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to 2menandatruck.com. 2menandatruck.com.
Veteran Awareness sponsored by You Are Not Alone. Today's veteran homeless rate is approximately 19,750, and the numbers are declining because of the various veteran programs. If you or a veteran you know is homeless, please call 877-4AID-VET. This is a confidential and toll-free call. From this veteran to other veterans, please be there to help our brother and sister veterans. Again, the number is 1-877-424-3838. And thank you for your service.
Folks, the sad truth of it is most of what we're seeing in the news cycle is just noise, and it's recycled noise at that. Nothing informative, nothing that actually helps us discern the times that we live in. That's why we started doing Herd Tell. Every morning right here on Big Talker Network, 7 a.m. with a replay at 3 p.m., we talk and discuss the issues of the day, culture and politics with knowledgeable guests, no yelling, no caterwauling, just grown folk talk about the issues that matter. Join me, Andrew Donaldson, every weekday morning for Herd Tell.
Hi, this is Justin Humphreys from the Humphreys Law Firm on Eastwood Road. Tune in Thursdays from 6 to 7 p.m. for Objection to the Form, covering civil litigation, real estate issues, and intellectual property. That's Objection to the Form, Thursdays 6 to 7 p.m. right here on the Big Talker 106.7 FM.
Android, iOS devices. My goodness, I'm just having trouble hanging on this morning. How you doing, Dan? We have Dan from Full Circle Fitness, who probably is a little more prepared this morning than I am. I'm still talking about.
I got my coffee.
I'm still talking about people trying to watch a movie while driving their car. Apparently, this guy is a doctor and an adult, 67 years old. At what point do we learn better? I don't know.
You know, they should have a law against doing that. Oh, wait, they do.
And what's interesting is that, arbitrarily we have assigned 2 different numbers, 18 and 21, to define the adultness of our population. And it's accurate. Every 18-year-old I know is mature. Every 21-year-old I know is ready to take on the world. We're all the answers.
Well, 14-year-olds know everything, so, you got to go down to that level if you're going to
Yeah, but we don't call them adults. We still call them, like, half, Quasimodos or something.
Having raised 6 kids, they think they're adults at 14. And you become an idiot from 14 to 21 as a parent. You don't know anything. You have no idea what you're talking about. They'll tell you that to your face. Then when they get about 21, 22, starting to get out of college, all of a sudden mom and dad seem to actually know what they're talking about. It's funny how that works.
But when did they stop throwing things into the trash and start throwing them into the parking lot of the Harris Teeter? That's, when they were 5, they knew to use a trash can. Somewhere between 5 and 16, the trash can becomes like optional, I guess.
Yeah, and then they're the ones that are screaming about the environment all the time too.
Yeah, and anytime recently, I don't know if you heard about the Go Topless in Florida, the Jeep gathering situation. It devolved.
About the one in Asheville.
Where was it?
There's one in Asheville every year, the Go Topless thing.
Yeah, I think this one was Florida. It devolved into all kinds of not good, violence and physical and stuff. But the bigger story for me, anyway, was the half-ton of trash left behind. How about every music festival like Bonnaroo and Peace Love Festival and all these hippies running around thinking, oh, my God, we're going to love the planet, we're living green. And they leave a half-ton of crap behind. It's like, I don't get it. But your interest is obviously more in fitness, not in trash.
Well, my interest is in both. Tuesday nights, though, I usually focus on that side of the coin. Wednesdays, I focus on the fitness. So, you get the best of both worlds with me. But yeah.
We haven't fallen over like the one guy that was, never mind.
Just a quick side note. You remember when they were protesting the pipeline?
Which one?
The Keystone. They were all living on some land out in the Midwest for months on end to protest.
Keystone, aren't those the guys that line their aluminum can so that your beer doesn't taste like metal?
You just aged yourself, my friend. We're old enough.
They don't make it anymore?
No, not that I know of. Let's put it this way. I haven't seen it in probably 20 years.
Wow. Okay.
It may still be around. I have no idea.
Never mind.
I don't drink beer anymore, so, I'm not one to ask. I drank enough beer between 13 and 23 to cover my whole life, so I don't bother with it anymore.
So I'm going to guess that Keystone had been out of business long enough that there's no copyright infringement with the Keystone pipeline.
Doubtful, but yeah. So anyway, when they were protesting that and then they all left, they just absolutely destroyed everything and left a ton of trash there. And to this day, I still laugh about it. They were there to protect the environment and they destroyed it. It's like, okay, whatever. But anyway, moving.
we destroyed a different kind of, because that stuff can be raked up and picked up. The oil, however, has to be dug up. I don't know.
I could tell you things about garbage near rivers, but we won't go there. Let's save that for a Tuesday night.
Okay. Well, I do know that our next guest has a lot of information about trash in the water, including nurdles. Are you familiar with nurdles?
Nurdle? No, I am not. Do tell.
So, have you ever been to, say, a fast food joint and have been given a spork or a knife or a spoon that's made out of non-metallic substance?
Yep.
That process is called injection molding, yes?
Yep, I'm familiar with that part.
Well, the actual stuff that becomes the injected molding fluid or goo or whatever it is starts as these little tiny, super tiny plastic pellets that weigh less than, like, air, because they're a lot of surface area, very little mass, so they're almost lighter than air, and they're called nurdles. And you pack these into a machine, you heat them up, they turn into a goo, you add your color, and boom, you have sporks. Right?
And that's why we have it all in our bloodstreams now.
So a couple of years ago, apparently there was a large container ship filled with many containers filled with nurdles that sunk. And there are now nurdles literally in every waterway on this planet as a result of that accident. It's in fish, it's in shark, it's in, I got to remember the term now. It's one of his, I learned it from him, the biomagnification? Because the little fish eat the little nurdles, the bigger fish eat the nurdles and the little fish that have nurdles in them, then the bigger fish. And then the next thing you know, there's like 30 pounds of plastic in a shark.
And then we eat the bigger fish, and then we have it.
Not anymore. According to Cape Fear Riverwatch, they have quite the list of what not to eat, and big mouth bass is like on the no-go list.
Is it really?
Oh, yeah, because those things are going to be like the most toxic with the highest levels of mercury, nurdles, plastic. I
always thought farmed salmon was the worst one.
Well,
they're loaded with something.
If it's farmed, it's probably a little bit safer, like the striped bass in the river, but you can't keep the striped bass because we're paying to put them in there. We're pulling them from another river, putting them into our river because the damage ChemWars has done to our river is preventing the local striped bass from maintaining their own population.
Probably from all the nurdles in their blood.
The nurdles, the ChemWars, the mercury, the PFAS, Gen X. What's interesting is he was able to unpack all the names. So the real trick was they didn't call it Gen X. They would refer to it as Gen X in one paragraph and then PFAS as something else to try and dilute the evil. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good. It's
Because you actually had something prepared, and here I am just like avoiding.
Well, it's a good segue into what I was going to talk about a little bit, which is supplementation for men and women over 50. So one of the things, we do a podcast every Friday, and we kind of touched on this topic because we got a lot of questions about it. And I thought it would be good for this show also because it's something a lot of people do, which is, take various supplements. And I'm keying this more towards 50, but the reality is you're old enough to remember Flintstone vitamins. We took them back in the day. That's a supplement. So I thought would just kind of be quickly run through some of them. So the segue would be one of the first ones I talk about is fish oil. Now it's funny, we were talking about, the bad stuff in the fish. You've got to look for a quality fish oil if you're going to take it, because the ones they get in China, that's not good stuff. A lot of our supplements are made in China, and there's no regulation over there.
Well, it's cheaper over there, too.
It's way cheaper. And
They
by
don't
the way,
have a minimum wage.
Yeah, there's also no regulation over supplements here in the U.S., relatively speaking. There are regulations, but basically...
Why would you want regulation? It gets in the way of profit.
Oh, I don't know, because you might have mercury in your fish oil. Yeah, that little old thing.
Yeah, but, man, look, you just become a walking thermometer.
Basically.
Right, so you can make money on it.
But yeah, so one of the things we talked about on the podcast was sourcing from good sources. Where if you're going to do a supplement, don't go to the mega marts and get the cheap Chinese made stuff, because you're getting what you pay for. And
how about those lunk shops?
The lunk shops?
Yeah, you've heard of the lunk alert.
I know. I was trying to think of a better way to put it. Yeah, I know exactly which ones you're talking about.
The musclehead outlets.
Hey, now I used to hang out in one of them every Saturday.
But you don't do it now. I'm guessing you wised up and grew up and matured.
But yeah, generally speaking, to their credit, they do have some better sourced ones. You've got to really look at where they're getting it and ask the representatives there, the salespeople, and also realize, however, they are salespeople. They're there to make commission. But generally speaking, all the more commonly known ones do have better quality stuff. I personally go online and get mine. Fish oil is a big one that if you're over 50, you really want to think about that. And let me give one caveat before I say any more, which is I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving medical advice. Don't take any of this stuff without checking with your doctor. I'm now covered on YouTube and all the other places legally.
Disclaimer.
Disclaimer. I'm not telling you to take it. I'm just giving suggestions and information that you may want to discuss with your medical professional. How was that one?
Now, as far as sourcing, is it better to squeeze your own fish?
I would assume it is, but
because they do this with
drink it.
They do this with almonds. They do this with everything else. I mean, why not squeeze your own?
Do you remember Saturday Night Live? Dan Aykroyd was playing off of one of the infomercials, I think it was, or was it Julia Child? And he blended up a fish and drank it.
Oh man, drugs are bad. Okay.
Yeah, he must have been on some good stuff that night, but I still remember it to this day.
I think that fish had more than mercury in it.
Yeah, I'm sure it did. But yeah, I mean, it's funny, kind of the way you mentioned it. Eating fish is probably the best way to get your fish oil. And you want to do that because you get the omega-3s and 6s, and it's good for your heart and all that other stuff. But that's a big one. Vitamin D is another big one. It's funny living in the South. You would think that we get enough vitamin D because we're out in the sun more, but the Northeast is far worse. But even in the South, they're seeing a lot of vitamin D deficiency. And when you're over 50, that can have some big effects. It can go a long way towards reducing chronic pains. It guards against heart disease. I'm just kind of pulling things out of my head here, but go watch my podcast if you want all the details. But vitamin D is a good one. A couple others I'm thinking about, magnesium and potassium. Do you ever get leg cramps at night?
I can't say at night, but certainly as I wake up.
Okay.
Right?
That's
Because,
not
like, you're dead asleep, and 5 minutes before the alarm goes off, the leg just, like, turns into a rock, and I'm no longer
Yeah.
asleep. So it's not, it doesn't happen when I'm asleep. It happens immediately as I wake up.
That may or may not be a deficiency in magnesium or potassium. Again, you want to talk to your doctor about it. If it's chronic, you know, if you start seeing it every week, if it happens once every 6 months, I wouldn't worry about it.
Now, wait a minute. Magnesium and potassium aren't, wait, it's sodium and...
It's magnesium and potassium are the micronutrients that generally can alleviate cramping like that.
But to flex a muscle and to relax a muscle requires potassium and sodium, yes?
Sodium, yes.
Okay.
Yes. But
So one of
trust me,
these is
most
definitely part of it, and then the other one is just getting stuff into the cell.
correct. Oh, that was good. How'd you know that? Well done, sir.
Dude, I'm 50 and I'm falling apart. Of
Hey,
course
I
I'm
am
paying attention to this stuff.
I try not to get too sciencey with this stuff because most people tone it right out.
Well,
I
dude,
leave
when you
that
get
to
down to
better
the periodic table of the elements and how our body responds to the individual molecule, I mean, not the molecules, the actual atom independent of a molecule. So one, like, atom of sodium is what makes your finger type. It's mind-bending.
It's fascinating to me. When you look at the human body and see all of the processes it does, from digestion to moving a muscle to our brain, all of that stuff. To me, it's utterly fascinating, and we have just the barest knowledge of it at this point. And it's funny because I would love to come back 500 years from now when they, see where we're at with that. Because you think 500 years ago, what did they know about the human body? Well, they were putting leeches on us to cure, diseases.
We still do.
I know we do. I know. And they do benefit in some ways. But I would love to come back, say, 300, 400, 500 years from now, get on the Starship Enterprise, do a little time warp back, and then go forward and I think it'll be amazing where we're at that point. It's also a little scary.
Bones had the best line in one of those episodes back in, my God, the 60s, 70s, where they were trying to do what we would consider current modern-day surgery on the show. And the doctor, Bones, McCoy. Yeah, it took me a second. I only know him as Bones. Bones is like, what are you doing? This is barbaric.
Remember that episode, yes. Yep, normal surgery instead of what he did, and I remember that well.
I don't think that's going to happen, but being able to do like
think about
stents.
this. They had the tricorders. Now they're using stuff like that, to scan things.
Well, after you drink that Barrica juice or whatever the hell it is, that stuff is like radioactive chalk.
Basically, it is. You're right. But yeah, stuff like, they were very prescient back in the 60s. And, you look at, they had the communicators. Well, we got cell phones. Now we got satellite phones and all that stuff. We're not that far away on a lot of that stuff. And, when you look at that, imagine where it's going to be 300, 400, 500 years from now. We'll be communicating without speech, I'm sure, at that point.
Oh, yeah. We can do that now with simple hand gestures.
Usually one finger at a time, right?
Yeah, and I'm not sure if they're advertising their sperm count, their IQ, or what they're saluting. I don't.
Yeah, the old one finger salute, right?
Mm-hmm. Now you're talking about potassium and magnesium supplements. Are we unable to uptake them from our diet at this age?
No, we should be getting them from our diet. So everybody knows bananas for potassium. That's the go-to. But there's things like green peppers, basically your leafy green vegetables. That's why we always, when you talk to someone in fitness or nutrition, they always tell you get the rainbow, right? Eat the rainbow. What you're really trying to do with all that is get these micronutrients, because magnesium and potassium are considered a micronutrient. And it's far, far better to get them from food. The problem is most people don't. What do we live on? Chips, fast food, and other manufactured food. And most of the time they don't have this stuff in them. So that's why, as you get older, again, these are supplements that you may or may not need. You want to talk to your doctor about it. The other one I'm kind of thinking about is B12, because let me tell you, our president's getting shot up with it on a regular basis, because it's B12 is straight to energy and mental acuity.
I must be generating that just naturally.
You might want to get tested at some point, because they're finding out there's quite a deficiency in that too.
I got tested after my marriage, believe me.
Didn't we? all, right?
Wait, that's a different. Never mind. I'm sorry.
Oh,
that was not the ASVAB.
But it's those are the big ones that I would suggest to people. We go into more detail on the podcast on it, but fish oil, vitamin D, magnesium, potassium, B12 are the big ones. My wife talked about calcium for women, and one I didn't cover, which is a big one, is for men, is creatine. Believe it or not, especially
isn't that what they put on firewood?
Creatine? No. Well, maybe they do. I don't know.
No, I'm sorry. That's creosote.
That's what's made from firewood. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
That's what creates.
I knew there was a relation. I knew there was a relationship.
That's not even close. Now, creatine is probably the most studied supplement there is. It's generally considered the safest. Again, don't take it without checking, but I've been taking it for 20 years myself, and it does help. Is it going to change your life? No. But I do find when I don't take it, my energy levels drop a little bit. What it really does is it helps the muscles fire better. We kind of talked about that earlier. Brings glucose and water into the muscles, keeps them full, so to speak. Again, I'm trying to avoid the science on it, but if you're looking for options and what to look at, those would be my big ones. As I said, we go into it in far more detail on the podcast, but I thought it would be good to kind of introduce it because it's something I get asked about at least 2-3 times a week. What ones do you recommend? What should I take? Or I'm taking this. What do you think?
And it's probably a different relationship than when you were younger, where everybody's trying to bulk up and, do the whey proteins and all these different supplements to bulk.
It's funny you bring up whey because it depends who you talk to what people consider whey. Some consider it a supplement, and technically it is. I actually consider it a food, not a supplement. It's dried milk when you think about it.
Well,
right?
In Spanish, I think whey means ugly.
No way.
If you watch Born in East L.A., that's exactly how the joke starts. No way. Who are you calling ugly?
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that. I don't speak any Spanish other than.
I know enough to stay alive because I grew up in a predominantly Hispanic neighborhood as a child. My parents were, I guess, immersive in their cultures. I'm not convinced of that.
It's funny how your environment triggers that. I grew up in a mostly Jewish neighborhood, and I started picking up Yiddish.
Gefilte fish.
All my friends growing up, their parents were all Jewish. Most of them war refugees from Europe.
Oh,
couple of them were Holocaust survivors. I've heard stories that you read about in the history books. It's nothing compared to what you would when you talk to a survivor, what they went through. But I started picking up Yiddish from them, oy vey and all that stuff. It was funny. I've forgotten most of it, but at one point I knew all the swear words in Yiddish.
Well, I'm almost betting like when you get into a conversation, you hear a couple people going at it, it'll come back.
I haven't heard Yiddish in a while, but I took French and German in school, and my French, I was actually.
Boy, that had to be conflicting.
It was. And it was funny. In high school, I had them back to back for one of my years. I think it was my junior year. I had French and then German right after it, and it was just funny. And then
your parents
gave me
were
guaranteed
worried.
in college, so. I took it all through college because I had a guaranteed A because I was more fluent than the teachers were, the professors were. So I forgot it all.
They were only 1 page or two ahead of the class.
A lot of them were. Yeah, it's, but yeah, French and German were the big ones in the 70s. Now it's Spanish and Chinese. So,
got to stay alive in the 21st century. So tell me about this podcast. This sounds like a new project of yours. Didn't know about it.
What we're doing, we've been going a couple months with it. We do it Fridays live on YouTube at 1 p.m. But eventually, we're hoping to move it over here to Big Talker. We're working towards that. But really, it's a podcast focused on people over 50. But I always tell people under 50, you should listen, because most of what we're talking about that applies over 50 applies under 50 also.
Yep. You're not going to age out of this.
No, we talk about a lot of different things. Our favorite thing is questions that people have. This Friday, I think I've already got 5 or 6 questions we're going to answer. Sometimes we do individual topics, like we did supplements last week. We talked about knee surgery a while back. That one was really popular. And then we're looking forward to having some guests on in the very near future. I'm working on that. I think I've got 4 or 5 already lined up. So lots of excitement to come with that. But for now, you can follow it on YouTube, 1 p.m. It's Living Fit After 50 on YouTube. So
now, how do people get the questions to you? Do you have a social account of some sort?
We do. So they can email them to us, info@livingfitafter50, and the 50 is with a number. So it's Living Fit After 50, the number 50. So they can email it there. We have a website, Living Fit After 50, again with the number.com. You can submit questions through there. You can comment on the live streams. We've had a couple people ask questions that way.
Okay.
Eventually, I'd love to do call-ins, hint, hint.
About to do one here in about 2 minutes.
Yeah, and because I love answering questions. I can talk about whatever I want to talk about, but I'd rather answer people's questions. Lori and I are both pretty experienced in training and nutrition, and we will tell you what we think is the truth, because you never know. Sometimes it does change. But we don't BS people, and we certainly ain't trying to sell you anything. We're just going to tell you how it is, and you take it and run with the information we give you.
That's a good way to go about it. It's almost like shopping at a store. Just pick what you need and leave the rest. Or at least don't get mad at anybody. That's just stupid.
I do a ton of research every week. I see all the stuff people see out on, say Facebook or whatever. I see all the trends. I actually research behind it and find out what's fact, what's fiction, what's BS, what's maybe partially true, that kind of stuff. And then I just say, here's what I found. You take from it what you want. And as I always say, go talk to your medical professional before you start throwing things in your body. You don't know what they are. So,
unless, of course, you're 20 years old and have all the answers.
Or 14, as we talked about earlier.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Well, Dan, thank you so much for your time. We burned through this half hour pretty quick. I need to take a quick break, pay some bills. And then we'll catch up with you either next Tuesday or before, should you call in or do something silly, and I need to get a hold of you.
All right. Sounds good.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back after these messages on the Asylum. Please don't go nowhere. We'll be right back after... Oh, I love the sound of that one. We'll be right back after these messages. The Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad. Don't go nowhere.
Keeping Wilmington informed. The Big Talker 106.7 FM WFBT, Carolina Beach. Do you or someone you love suffer from back pain, poor circulation, or struggle to get a good night's sleep? Do you just need help getting into or out of your chair? US Med Express is Wilmington's leading supplier of Golden Technology lift and sleep chairs, carrying a variety of models in our showroom at 1733 Dawson Street. Our chairs lead the industry in power lift recliner features and advances in technology. Our chairs are FDA certified as medical devices, which means it's 100% tax deductible and helps with a number of medical conditions, including arthritis, poor circulation, and sleep apnea. Give us a call today at 910-500-6162 or stop by and experience our chairs for yourself at 1733 Dawson Street. That's 910-500-6162. 1733 Dawson Street in Wilmington. U.S. Med Express.
Hello, I'm Matt Bennett with WWAY News. Governor Roy Cooper reacting to the deadliest school shooting in nearly a decade. Cooper releasing a statement shortly after the shooting in Texas that left 21 dead, saying, quote, "What a devastating and unspeakable tragedy at a Texas elementary school where at least 14 students were killed by a shooter." He added, "Our hearts are heavy for their loved ones and the community." And we're learning more about what led up to a double shooting in Curie Beach that left 2 people dead. In a newly released 911 call, 61-year-old William Bennett can be heard admitting that he shot his neighbor, 55-year-old John Garisto, and complaining that Garisto had been feeding foxes. The 911 call lasts for nearly 4 hours, but shortly after 8 minutes, the remainder of the call is redacted. A second gunshot was heard from Bennett's home on the scene. He was pronounced dead. In other news around the Cape Fear, educating parents about the dangers of drugs commonly abused by school-aged students was the focus of a meeting at the New Hanover County Board of Education building last night. The event was hosted by the Poe Center of Raleigh, an organization that targets parents of upper elementary, middle, and high school students. The program, called Drugs Uncovered, introduces parents to trends regarding alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs and health risks associated with using and abusing them, especially in kids and adolescents. And a new tiny home community in Wilmington is beginning to finally look like a neighborhood. Eden Village is meant to address local homelessness, providing tiny homes at affordable renting prices for the chronically homeless, helping them find jobs and opportunity. Yesterday, the group set 4 new homes on their foundation, bringing the running tiny house tally to 6. Wayne Jenkins has been homeless for more than 6 months and watched his home as it was wheeled into place. He says he's looking forward to having a safe place to live. Eden Village will be a community of 31 tiny homes on Carnegie Avenue. For more on these stories, you can head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Matt Bennett. Have a great day.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist from Elk Carpenter with your Storm Track 3 forecast. It's going to be a comfortable day here in the Cape Fear with temperatures right around normal for this time of year in the low 80s. Away from the coast, we'll top off in the upper 70s, close to the low 80s along the immediate coastline. We're expecting partly cloudy skies throughout the day today with a little bit of sunshine breaking through this afternoon. As for tonight, our temperatures drop down to the middle and upper 60s overnight with mostly cloudy skies sticking around. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by 2 Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to 2menandatruck.com. 2menandatruck.com.
Veteran Awareness sponsored by You Are Not Alone. Today's veteran homeless rate is approximately 19,750, and the numbers are declining because of the various veteran programs. If you or a veteran you know is homeless, please call 877-4AID-VET. This is a confidential and toll-free call. From this veteran to other veterans, please be there to help our brother and sister veterans. Again, the number is 1-877-424-3838. And thank you for your service.
Teachers and parents, the North Carolina Symphony is here to support you as you carry on the education of your children and students. Take your kids on a free virtual field trip to the Symphony with a virtual education concert and companion student book. Go on a virtual journey to learn what makes music music with music by William Grant Still, Beethoven, Brahms, and more. Access the free video and student book with password 1932 at ncsymphony.org/virtual.
Enjoying Big Talker Network is as easy as asking for it. Program your digital home assistants such as Google Home, Alexa, and Siri to stream Big Talker Network content by simple voice command. Enjoy convenient hands-free access to program whenever you want, however you want by asking for Big Talker.
And I guess that makes sense so that I can actually remember how it is and why. Oh, look,
Yeah,
we're live.
yeah.
I'm going to throw some music in here so it sounds like we know what we're doing. And then I'm going to welcome everybody back to the Asylum, the refuge in a world gone mad, right here on the Big Talker. And then I'll introduce the voice, the disembodied voice on the air, as Dr. Larry Cahoon of the Cape Fear Riverwatch, who's a biologist, limnologist, zoologist, and a lot smarter than I am. And we're discussing here, just getting started, how information stays in the brain. And eventually we're going to get to one of my favorite. I mean, I am just curious because I have never been more than, I don't know, snorkel depth below the surface of any given big body of water, because that's one. It's like it's the same reason I don't like wander into the forest just for fun, because I am not at the top of the food chain unless I'm in a grocery store.
Yeah. Well, good morning.
Good morning, Doc. Thanks for joining us.
we we're not aquatic creatures by nature, and we've been taught in scary movies and such to be afraid of things we can't see until then we can see them, and it's like, oh my God, it wants to eat me. And one thing I want to pass along is that the aquatic world is well, we'll talk about the ocean. I'm an oceanographer, and that's the background I come from. In freshwater systems, I tend to avoid putting my face in the water. Although when I grew up, well, around here that's a good idea.
That was in Jersey, man. You don't put your face in the shower.
Yeah, in Jersey you don't even get in the water. You kind of avoid it. At least back then. I remember local streams often ran different colors, none of them natural.
Oh, so the rainbow is not a good thing.
Right. Yeah, and they were pretty odd colors. I remember some blaze orange type colors.
And
some
these
other
aren't
funky...
the surface like oily, swirly colors of blue and green. These are like the water itself.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The water itself. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. And this is before the Clean Water Act stopped an awful lot of that stuff. But there were places we used to go sailing in New Jersey where you just you didn't want to get in the water. Period.
Did it dissolve your boat?
Actually, one of my father's racing catamarans had a fiberglass hull, and we sailed it in Raritan Bay, which is probably one of the funkiest sewer holes on the whole planet at that time. And when we pulled the boat out, we could not get the brown stain off the fiberglass except with hydrochloric acid.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
And that probably
he tried all
took
the other cleaners. Yeah. I remember he had to go to the hardware store and buy what they call muriatic acid, which is hydrochloric.
It's what we use in the swimming pool.
Yeah. And you wear these long, thick rubber gloves and et cetera. And he had to scrub the hulls down with that stuff to get the stain off. But that was New Jersey, back when. And things are better now, I'm assured. But as a kid, I spent a lot of time on Cape Cod, where my father's family lived, and where my family lives now, my extended family, that is. And there's a lake there, and I used to snorkel in it. And I was motivated to do that partly just to explore, but also I wanted to see where the good fishing spots were, and there's no better way to do that when you're 12 than see it with a mask and snorkel. And so, my comfort level in the water got to be pretty good. I was certified as a scuba diver when I was 17, and I did a lot of research diving here at UNCW back in the 80s and early 90s. So I had a whole lot of really cool experiences with that. If you asked me to pick my number one diving experience, it would be the night dives that we did in the Florida Keys. We had a mission down there, and we spent a couple of weeks in the Keys. And we were diving out at the edge of the coral reef tract there. And the program guys, we had a diving program here, they regarded us science divers as novices, and to some degree that was appropriate. We hadn't been through the extensive training and thousands of dives they had, but we had been through the training they gave us. And so their comfort level with putting us in the water grew as time went on. And so they agreed to let us do some night dives. And, you know, the big risk in scuba diving is not jaws. It's not, you know, a giant squid coming up to grab you and haul you into a cave. It's panic.
Yes, and that's true whether you're in the area, in the water, in a car, hiking.
Absolutely, yeah. Panic is the killer. With panic, you forget your training and you do something wrong, and you make mistakes, and that's what kills you. And, you know, I'm familiar with some number of scuba diving deaths, and they usually involve some degree of panic, people forgetting their training and so forth. Well, to give credit where credit's due, the professional people trained us well. And, you know, those of us who were diving with them, you know, had passed all those tests. And, you know, they had messed with us a bit. You know, they did things like turn off our air supply and stuff like that to see if we'd do the wrong thing. And we've been trained what to do if that happened. And so those of us who, you know, passed all that training and so forth and you know, had shown that we were competent in the water, got permission to extend our range a little bit. So night diving was something they let us do. And what they do is pair us up, one of us with one of them, us being the science divers and them being the professionals. And so I was able to make a couple of night dives, 50, 60 feet of water. Now, you know, the whole idea of diving at night is, you know, it's dark, and you can't see anything except what is lit up in front of you with flashlights. And we had a flashlight rig attached to our heads, you know, like a helmet.
Right.
And so we could see in front of us, but you couldn't see anything else.
It's almost like a little beacon of awareness in front of you.
Right. And so, you know, there'd be 2 or even 3 of us down on the bottom at the same time, so we could keep track of each other. The visibility was very good, but it was dark. So you knew
in
where
my
the other
head, I'm
guys
getting
were.
a visual of like 3 human anglerfish bobbing.
Yeah, yeah, in a sense. Yeah, that's right. Only they use that little lure to attract prey. And one of the coolest things I noticed, there were a lot of cool things. I mean, it was fascinating. I would do that again in a heartbeat. Was that if you stayed still very long, lots of little crustaceans, you know, little shrimp-like things would be attracted to the light, and so you'd have a giant blizzard of critters in front of you that would get bigger and bigger over time, and it would actually obstruct your vision. So if you wanted to keep seeing at some distance, you had to keep moving, and the little fellows would catch up to you when you stopped and held still.
You're describing mosquitoes, and I don't like them.
Well, these didn't bite. These were little amphipods and mysids, totally harmless. And, of course, you know, these are the kinds of critters that I studied, so I was fascinated.
Okay,
and I
but they're
noticed
not
that,
dinner.
No, they're tiny. Little fellas. They're 1/4 inch, 1/2 an inch long at most.
Wow.
The fish, by and large, were sleeping. You know, we'd see the reef fishes sitting close to the bottom and just kind of chilling out. Not a whole lot of activity. They're primarily visual in terms of how they find things, and they tend to go to sleep, or at least rest, whatever it is that fish do. All the corals and the soft corals had their polyps out fully, so it looked like things had blossomed underwater. And they were busily feeding on tiny zooplankton.
And you're watching all this, like you've been reading about it. Now you're actually seeing this hidden world.
Yeah. And a lot of the things that were normally buried down in the sand had come up, like sea cucumbers and sea stars. And so it was a radically different world, in a sense, than what we saw during the day. During the day, the coral polyps were tucked away inside mostly. The sea cukes and other things were buried down in the sand. And the fishes were active and mobile, but they were often hiding from other fish. And so it was a
the eternal game of hide and seek.
Yeah, well, that's right. Exactly. You know, if somebody sees you and they're big enough, they might eat you. And the reef provides lots of cover, and so that's why you find a lot of fish there. They have a place to hide. They can duck around corners, which is real easy to do there. People always wonder, what about the big predators? Well, in all honesty, I don't think I ever saw more than one or two sharks in the water with me, and they were small, and they were terrified of me because they beat feet in the other direction. Never saw big ones. Now, we know they were there. Sharks, they're present. They're present off the beaches, for that matter, but they rely on hearing sound in the water to detect you at distance. What we consider good visibility is maybe 50 to 100 feet, right? You can see something that far away if it's big enough. But that's nothing. You think about how far you can see on land, miles and miles, so you can see your threats coming. We humans are visually orienting predators, and we rely on vision for an awful lot of our information in the water because visibility is physically limited. It's not our eyes that limit us, it's the physics of light transmission in water. So vision is not the primary sensory mode for distance learning, okay? Sharks hear you, and they can hear very low-frequency sounds, like the sound you make when you're swimming.
Okay.
We have this conversation a lot in terms of what causes shark attacks. And
not
I
even
tell
splashing, just regular swimming.
Yeah. That's right. They can hear that, okay? You can't because we're not sensitive to sounds at such low frequencies, but they are. Sharks have a sensory system called the lateral line that runs around their nose and then down each side of their body. And it's basically a very long sonar array.
Because low frequencies have longer waves, and to detect that wave, you need a larger receiver. So
Absolutely.
if this ear is running down the entire length of the body of both sides, this guy is going to hear really low frequencies.
Really low frequencies, like the sound you make, just paddling, okay? Wow. Just normal swimming. They're going to hear that.
And they're going to hear that from 10, 20, 30, feet, inches, miles?
Oh, a lot farther. We think the average shark can probably hear you in the water as much as a kilometer away.
Wow.
Yeah. They know you're there. That's the bottom line. They know you're there, okay? And when you realize that they know you're there, and, everybody around you, they know, boom, there's one there, there's one there, there's one there. They know that. And then, you do the math on it, and you figure out how many people are in the water at, say, Wrightsville Beach, and how many sharks are out there. And you realize that minute by minute, the sharks have a very large number of possible opportunities to attack something. And the fact is they don't. It's extremely rare that a shark will actually attack a person. And it's not that they don't know we're there. They do. It's that we're too big. The sound we make is obviously coming from a large organism, and they're afraid of that, which they should be. Okay? You don't try to eat something that's about your size because it might hurt you. Or worse.
Get lodged in your esophagus.
Right. It's going to put up a fight, right? And so they tend to avoid us. And so when I was scuba diving, there's always two of us. We're making a lot of noise. I mean, the bubbles, the equipment, and we're swimming and so on. They knew we were there, and we knew there were sharks in the area quite often. And we never saw them. They never got within visual range of us. They kept their distance. They knew very well that you don't mess with those things. It's kind of like humans against space aliens, right?
Wow.
The alien spaceship shows up over your head, makes a lot of noise, and a couple of aliens drop to the bottom. onto the land surface and are prowling around. And never mind any prior experience or learning, it's like, I think I'm going to avoid those guys because I don't want to take any chance of getting hurt. You would keep your distance from big space aliens, too.
Oh,
and we're like space aliens
I
to them.
keep my distance of big humans.
Yeah, right.
I don't know what the hell you're talking about. I'm trying to stay safe.
Right. So they leave us alone. I know we've had big sharks in the water close enough to hear us, tigers and so forth, and never see them, not while we're diving. It's weird. Sometimes we'd go fishing in between dive sets, and we'd catch sharks right off the boat. And,
Whoa.
We knew they were there. Yeah.
You just reach over and, you're not using your hands like you're catching a nurdle.
We're fishing.
Okay.
Yeah, we're fishing, yeah. And, in between dives, you're sitting on the surface decompressing, and sometimes in the evening we'd fish, and, there'd be sharks all over the place. So we knew they were there, and we knew that they knew we were there. Never bothered us while we were diving. So, my comment to people is ratchet down your fear of sharks. They're afraid of us at least as much as we're afraid of them. Don't behave as if sharks are going to get you. Under normal circumstances, it's not a problem. Now, I have been in the water very close to big barracudas. Was diving the old schoolhouse barge wreck off Wrightsville Beach. That was back in the 80s, and that wreck is probably gone or pretty well squashed by hurricane waves and all that. But it was a big vessel and multi-story, and it was in about 85 feet of water. And I remember swimming along, and there were 3 great barracudas keeping pace with me, and they were big. They were about 6 feet long each. And I saw them; they saw me. We're taught, barracudas, they're wolves of the sea. Oh, you're going to die, and it's like no. I noticed that if I swam toward them, they would swim away. And if I swam away from them, they'd swim toward me. They maintained a constant distance, in other words. They were just curious, and they swam along with me for a while. I wasn't really afraid of them. I wasn't, going to ignore them. I thought, that's really cool, 3 big predators swimming along with me. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm the meanest SOB here. I have a big knife, and I have partners, and we have spear guns and stuff like that. And so don't mess with us. And they were just curious. They'd never seen a scuba diver, I guess, and they wanted to check it out. They weren't really afraid. They were cautious, but, they're just observing and learning, just as I was. It's the same thing.
And I want to try and put some of these numbers, because we in America have a hard time visualizing those European numbers.
Yeah.
So a kilometer, right? You're saying that these sharks can hear paddling a kilometer or so away.
Up to a kilometer. Yeah, it depends on, how noisy the surf is and stuff like that. But they can, surfers will tell you that, sharks are all around them. And they're even attracted to surfboards because they make a funny noise.
Almost like a whistle.
They're big. Yeah, it's a real weird noise for them. And they're curious. The rule of thumb is if you see a shark, it's not trying to attack you. It's curious. It's
something's thinking, in my home, and I want to know what it is.
Yeah, what is it? The first question is, can I eat it? Or next question would be, can it eat me? And if the answer to both of those is no, it's like maybe it will kill something, and I get a piece of that. They're opportunists. But again, they're doing recon mostly, and they're not supposed to attack blindly because that gets you in trouble. All their sensory apparatuses are up front. Their eyes, the lateral line net around their nose, their ability to smell, their gills that they breathe with, and of course their teeth that they eat with. So all the important parts are up front, and so if you put your face into what you think is a meal and it attacks you, you're in big trouble.
Because all your vulnerable bits are already there.
Yeah, remember, they eat with their face, right? We use utensils, or at best we eat with our hands. And so if you grab something that is hostile, it might bite your hand. But in the case of a shark, if you grab something that is poisonous or spiky or armed and capable of inflicting harm, it's your face that gets hurt. So, they're going to be very careful about that. Other cool stuff. Fish learn very quickly what a spear gun sounds like.
Really?
Yeah, very quick.
So they learn apparently faster than humans do.
And for good reason. Again, we use the space alien analogy here. So if you see the space aliens stomping around in the backyard, and somebody goes out there to greet them, and they zap them with a disintegrator, you're going to get the message real fast. This is bad, and we're all going to run and hide. We used to dive, usually two of us, sometimes three, and the third guy was often tasked with securing dinner. And so he'd go down with a spear gun and a bag and so forth, and usually we got spiny lobsters or something like that. But every now and then he'd spear a fish. Well, the first shot, it makes noise, and then you've got a thrashing fish on the end of a spear. All that racket sends the message right away. Dangerous predator is here. Everybody take cover. And everything, that first blap of the spear gun, you see all the fish
that's
on the
all you
reef
get.
ducked behind cover. Yeah, that's right. That's it. You get one shot.
Or you don't eat.
They learn real fast. Wow. So they didn't mind us when we were just diving. We'd have fish come right up to us. The black sea bass were very curious. We had to shoo them away from our work. They weren't afraid of us at all.
But one spear gun and they won't come near you.
Oh, spear gun and everybody's gone. That's right, yeah. And
curiosity
those
be damned.
Fish, yeah. Those fish had been hunted before. They knew what that sound was. Wasn't that they learned the first time, it's that they learned after some exposure. So, things like that register when you're there to observe it. The best dives are dives where you've got good visibility so you can see much more of the biota around you. Watch the fishes move. We're drawn to motion. You can train yourself to look for other things in the water. I used to snorkel in between dives and, just paddle around on the surface. And I trained myself, instead of looking, out as far as I could see, fear of jaws, right?
Right.
I want to see if there's any trouble coming. I'm going to, search the farthest reaches of my senses. Well, I learned that, number one, I was pretty safe, partly because, as I said, I'm usually the meanest SOB in the water. But also, I was interested in zooplankton, and so I trained myself to look close up, focus a few inches from in front of my face. And there's all kinds of little creatures hopping around and swimming and so forth if you look for them. And I had immense fun doing that. And you can see them in their natural habitat doing what they do. And if you are willing to look for the little things, there's a whole world of stuff there. It's really fascinating to see all that stuff. But again, your comfort level in the water has to be pretty high. I'd spent an awful lot of time in the water, and my comfort level was very high. So, I was willing to focus in on the small stuff a few inches from me. I did have one encounter snorkeling off the back of the ship in between dives. It was a real hot day in August, and it was off the coast here. And I'm just paddling around looking for stuff. Beautiful day, nice clear blue water. School of dolphin fish comes hauling butt right past me. And they were moving pretty fast. And I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. They're multicolored fish, yellow and green and all that. And right behind them was a marlin.
Oh. So they weren't there for your enjoyment and beautiful observation. They were getting the hell out of town.
He was chasing them, yeah. And we saw each other at about the same time. And he was, I'm not going to exaggerate. He was about my size. Maybe the body might have been a little smaller than me, but he had an 18-inch long spear on his face. Yeah. And I'm thinking...
that'll ruin your chances for a date at prom, that's for sure.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, he's a predator and he's armed, and I'm, I think I'm at the top of the food chain, but I wasn't armed at that point. So I was snorkeling, popped up and started yelling for the guys up on the boat, throw me a spear gun. And, of course, it was super hot, and there was no one outside, so I'm there on my own. And I look back down, and this marlin is looking at me, and I'm looking at him. And, what went through my head was these are very aggressive predators. They use that spear in their face to good effect. They come in and slash and whack with it and disable something, and then they eat it.
Certainly when they're hungry. Like if they're not hungry, he's probably the most docile house cat ever.
I suspect swimming that fast all the time, they're hungry pretty much all the time. They're always interested.
It's not like
in
a
food.
Lion where it can sit down next to an antelope and drink water with no problem.
Yeah, and at the same time, if you run into a lion while it's chasing wildebeests and you get between the lion and its prey,
you're an easier dinner.
You might have a problem. Anyway, so, I'm thinking, okay, novel predator, what do I do? And it became clear that dominance had to be established here. They tell you when you encounter a mountain lion or a bear or whatever, big predator, don't run away because it will think you're prey, right?
Right. Make yourself big and loud.
Yeah, and charge, which is what I did. Took a breath of air through the snorkel and swam toward the marlin, making noise through my snorkel and waving my arms and moving toward him. And he looked at me like, WTF, right? And then he took off. And I thought, okay, I'm
ain't nobody got time for that.
Here. Yeah, that's right. Now I can get out of the water safely and not have something spear me from behind.
Being perforated by a marlin is just not my bucket list item.
They move pretty fast, and I don't think there's ever been a case of a human attacked by a marlin, but I didn't want to be the poster child for that either.
Somebody's got to do it.
Yeah, right.
Let it not be me.
First recorded
Let it be Florida guy.
Right. So, actually, quite seriously, a swordfish did attack one of the research subs way back when. The Alvin, the sub operated by Woods Hole Oceanographic, was attacked 2,000 feet down by a swordfish. And the Alvin's a lot bigger than the swordfish was, but the swordfish attacked it, embedded its spear on its face in the foam flotation around the hull of the sub, and couldn't get loose. And so the ship's crew had swordfish steaks for dinner.
I was going to say that's a reverse spear.
Yeah,
wow.
That's right. But the fish attacked the sub, and you wonder
Well,
what's
it's
going on
probably
there.
sizing it up. Like, this thing is unusual and really big, but it doesn't look like it could do much.
Yeah, the sub, is not real agile in the water. It doesn't move
have a
fast.
spear on its face.
Surfacing, but the fish attacked fast enough to embed the spear on its face so deeply that it couldn't get loose.
Man.
So it really meant to do some harm.
It was dedicated, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Woo.
And you never quite know what you're going to bump into down there. I think really every dive I saw things that I hadn't seen before. One of the cool things that it's one thing to teach stuff in a class. It's another to demonstrate it for real. On one of those dives, I managed to slice my thumb open with my own dive knife. Elmer Fudd, right? and blood was coming out, and I noticed that it looked green.
Oh.
And I thought, okay, and I knew what was going on. I figured it out real fast. It's that at that depth, I was 40 or 50 feet down. There's no red light penetrating that far, so blood can't look red when there's no red light, right? It looks red because it's reflecting red light.
Wow,
and at that depth, if you watch underwater photography, you'll notice that if they're deep enough, and it doesn't take much, about 30 feet, they have to use artificial lights to get the real colors of the fishes and other things to show up. You turn off the lights and have natural light from above, and they look kind of washed out and gray.
I've seen this on like underwater recovery of flight data recorders and.
Yeah, exactly. You bring your own lights, and the normal colors you expect to see will show up. But if you rely on just sunlight, it doesn't all
gray.
penetrate
It's all green
water.
gray.
Right. Green light penetrates rather well. So I thought to myself, hey, I should do the experiment. So I squeezed blood out of my thumb as I went to the surface, and the thought in the back of your head is, you're bleeding in the water. Aren't you going to draw sharks?
Yeah, every shark in the neighborhood's like,
Yeah, except they have to be downstream of you to smell that.
Oh.
And then you get close, and it's like, oh crap, it's one of those aliens. I mean, I had a partner, I had a knife, and all that stuff, and a really bad attitude on top of that. Yeah. Let me see what you got. So
bring it.
Sure enough, as I surfaced, it came up to about 30 feet of depth. My blood turned red again. I thought, oh, that's a relief. Didn't suddenly contract some horrible disease underwater.
Turning Martian on you.
Yeah, right. Yeah, damn. Got green blood coming out of me. That's
you
bizarre.
Vulcan.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I do not recommend doing this experiment deliberately underwater. Cutting yourself underwater is not a good idea for some number of reasons, but
most of them based in things you cannot see with the naked eye.
Yeah. And so what else have I seen underwater? God.
I mean, that has to be weird when you go down and you're saying that these little guys that are, you're saying the size of a quarter or a quarter of an inch?
Small. A few millimeters.
Wow.
Little tiny things. And you can, if you focus, you can see them in the water.
You can see their little legs like...
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and they're beautiful. You're close to the surface when you're snorkeling, and so you get plenty of light. And they have all these little bitty antennae and things like that, and you can see them swim and do their little things. And, they don't care about you. And they're fascinating to watch. Each one swims a little differently, each species.
Mm-hmm.
And you see little jellyfish and things like that.
It's almost like the first time peering into a Petri dish and you see the, bacterium for the first time, and you're like, this is a whole nother world.
That's right. Exactly. It's just exactly like that. And it's fascinating. And, it's not something I recommend for everybody. You've got to be comfortable in the water. You've got to be safe. In other words, you're close to your boat. There are sentient beings in charge up top. You've got the right safety gear with you. If you got a mask and snorkel, you can float in the water for hours and hours and hours and not have any problem. The big problem for us, the reason people drown, out in the ocean, is you got to hold your head up to breathe air, and your head is heavy, and you wear out after a while. You got a mask and snorkel, you're going to do real well.
You could just float like a buoy.
Yeah, you just float.
And I noticed you float higher when you take a deep breath in, and then you sink a little bit when you let your air out. That's
absolutely. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So that took a minute to get used to.
Yeah. Rough water is different, of course, but quite often we had almost flat seas, and so it was really a joy to get in. There were times when the visibility offshore here was superb, 100 feet. There are times that you couldn't quite see the bottom, partly because the bottom just kind of
kept going.
Blends in.
Oh, yeah, like looking out at the horizon and you can't tell where the sea and the sky.
Yeah, exactly. You can't quite make out any distinct features. But then you get down a little bit and the bottom comes into better view, and you realize, boy, it's a whole landscape down there. A lot of the dives we did were on rock reefs or other kinds of features, that offered some kind of relief and structure and growing things attached to the rocks, seaweeds and soft corals, that sort of thing. So there was, it was like seeing a new landscape for the first time.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's almost like that 12-year-old fishing boy again, just like reawoke each time.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a new world. I recommend it for those who have the mental and physical capacity to do it. And I said mental first because diving requires that you have the right mental attitude and fortitude. In other words, you don't
to remain
panic.
Aware.
Yeah. Awareness is good. You got to be trained properly. You got to remember your training and not panic. As I said earlier, I've been aware of a small number of diving fatalities, and it became clear that panic was a part of the problem, and forgetting the training was a part of the problem. Usually what kills you in a situation like that is a series of mistakes.
Yeah,
and
this thing
the trick
rarely happens, isolated event or in a vacuum.
Yeah. It's rare that, one little thing happens and you're dead. It's usually that you've made a series of mistakes, things that you should have known not to do, and you forgot or ignored or pretended didn't matter.
That's not a big deal. I'll take care of it when I get back.
Yeah. Yeah,
my radio's not working. It's not a problem. I'll get it.
Yeah, exactly. I remember one dive where my octopus regulator, we dove with an octopus rig, we called them, where you had a second regulator. You had a primary regulator you were breathing through, and then the backup in case you had to buddy breathe or something went wrong with your primary. And I remember going down, and this was in cold water off Cape Cod, and I was sucking a lot of water through my primary regulator, and I took it out and looked at it and realized that plastic housing had been broken. We were deploying off of a Zodiac, an inflatable boat, and it probably got smashed when we loaded gear, tanks and all that stuff into the Zodiac. And so I could breathe through it, but I was getting a lot of water coming through, and so, that's a problem. You don't want to inhale water, not for too long. And so I switched over to my secondary. Yeah, that's right. Not a good idea to fill your lungs with water. So I went over to my secondary, but I made a note to myself, If anything else goes wrong, I abort the dive. And that's it. Of course, I had a partner. He had an octopus regulator, too. So there were backups and backups and backups. But, I was aware that I had a potential problem. And I had mentally thought through immediately that, okay, there's right ways to handle this, and there's, don't do anything dumb. So
far less risk-taking at this point forward.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you got to know when it's time to bail out. And we were trained very thoroughly. You have the right to refuse to make a dive if you're not comfortable. You
sounds
have
like a
the
safety
right
thing.
Yeah, well, we articulated that clearly. Only those who were comfortable going on a given dive, should do it. I had one of my guys bail out of a surface-supplied air dive once. He had trouble equilibrating. You got to, hold your nose and blow and puff out your ears to equilibrate for the pressure, and he had trouble doing that. And we were talking to him. He had a helmet on, and we had a radio, telephone type communication, and he just wasn't comfortable, and he bailed and came back to the surface, and he started to apologize to me, and I said, it's not a problem. You got to be comfortable doing what you're doing, and if you're not, you have the absolute right to stop, and you did the right thing. I would never want you to continue a dive where you're having trouble and are not comfortable handling it. And so, that's how we do it. Safety comes first, and we'll find a way to do the mission, but
yeah, we're not going to do it at the expense of a person. Just
that's
not
right.
worth it.
Yeah, it ain't worth it. Yeah, it's not worth it. We're not going to get anybody in trouble. That's the last thing we want to happen. These are not life and death situations unless you blow it, and put yourself in a bad spot.
We don't want it to be. That's the whole
Correct.
purpose.
So, I'm a big fan of being safe at things. You go out to sea on ships or go diving or whatever, and things can happen. And sometimes you're taken by surprise. I had one dive where I didn't quite run out of air on the bottom, but pretty close. And I had to buddy breathe with my partner on the way up. And it was a really tough day to dive. And the current on the bottom at 100 feet was running about 2 knots, which is
just
way
pushing
much
you.
more. Oh, geez. I had one arm wrapped around the anchor chain, and I was flapping in the current like a flag. and I was trying to use the other arm to transfer bottles from one container to another, and huffing and puffing, just trying to stay in place. And I looked at my gauge and said, oh my God, I'm out. I wasn't really out. I was down to 600 pounds, and that's a bailout condition. You're supposed to surface with that much as a safety precaution. Signaled my partner that I was low on air, gave him the thumbs up, which meant we're going to have to go up. He says, yep. Buddy breathed on the way up. And I hit the surface with some air left in the tank, but I got chewed out by the dive master, and properly so, because I'd let myself run down the air too fast, and I should have known better. I should have paid attention better. No harm done, but
It's certainly a learning experience.
Oh yeah, yep. I bent the rules, and shouldn't do that. Again, we were trained for that. We had the signals, the protocols, the buddy breathing, all that down pat. Got to the surface without any trouble, and it was a rough day. Surface waves were 6 to 8 feet. It was really tough. Yeah. But we had gear on the bottom that had to be retrieved, and so we made the dives. And I won't call it a close call. I just say it was one of those things where got my knuckles wrapped, and appropriately so.
And that's where you can turn to your students and say, all of us.
Yep.
Right? Because even though you're the instructor for these kids, there's somebody that's looking at you like somebody's watching somebody all the time, making sure that everybody's straight.
That's right.
And going into the summer, right? Because the tourist season is starting to fill up. We have people just wandering into the water with absolutely, I mean, these are like snowbirds that have never seen anything bigger than a bathtub or a swimming pool. And they're going to come jump in the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of North Carolina and not realize that the current has pushed them to Myrtle Beach.
Actually, you make a good point. And it's never a bad idea to emphasize basic safety for swimmers. Every year we have people come to North Carolina or come to the beach. Quite often they're in-state people. Get in the water, get caught in a rip current, and drown themselves. Or drown trying to save someone else. All too often someone gets into trouble, and other people who are not trained lifeguards go after them. They're not properly trained. They're not in shape.
They mean well, but they're dangerous.
They run out there to save this poor person, all with good intent, and they wind up drowning themselves because the ocean is rougher than you think it is. If you wind up over your head in the water, which happens with rip currents, and a rip current's basically a mass of water moving off the beach because the waves have been piling water up on the beach, and that water's got to go back out somewhere. Usually shows up when conditions are rougher, so that compounds the difficulty. And you got to learn to recognize a rip current. And I'll tell everyone listening the basic rule: if you find yourself in the water being sucked offshore, swim parallel to the beach, flip over on your back to rest, and get out of that current that's moving offshore. Once you're out of that current, you can turn back toward the beach. Do not panic. Swim parallel to the shore and then come ashore with the waves behind you. You can often see a rip current forming. You just watch the water, and if it looks like it's moving offshore, that's probably a rip current. It takes a little bit of experience with the eye to recognize one, but they're very common, and they drown people all the time off our beaches. We have 110 miles of regularly visited beaches, and every year it's a half dozen or more people that drown, and this is preventable. An awful lot of places don't have lifeguards for one reason or another. It's not the season. They're off duty after hours and that sort of thing. So, your number one risk out there is rip currents. Sharks are a way, way, way distant, second, third, 15th place, whatever.
Right, because you could smash your head on a rock if you're not, if you're just playing around near a jetty, for example, you have a better chance of being severely injured by a rock than by a shark.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, fortunately, there's not a lot of rocks around, but, then we have people who want to swim right around the pier pilings or near jetties, and they don't realize how powerful the water can be, and it will smash you into that stuff. The lifeguards at Wrightsville will warn you away from the pilings, in no uncertain terms. They'll come over and yell at you and make you get away. But we get daredevils and idiots, unfortunately, who think, I can body surf through the pilings. Yeah, well, the wave will smash you into one of those things, and that'll be that. And people underestimate the power of bigger waves. Wave power, to put it formally, is a cube function of wave height. All right? So,
because you have a volume of water in that height.
Yeah, that's right.
So you're no longer dealing with 35 square feet of living space in your.
Yeah.
You're talking a ton.
Right.
Of.
Yeah.
It's fluid, obviously, but a fluid acting as a single
it's
unit.
Heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I remember stories from the hurricanes of, daredevils taking their longboards out to surf the hurricane waves, and they'd do that until a wave broke their boards, and then they'd come home with the biggest piece.
That's my trophy.
Yeah, right.
This is a testament to my stupidity.
So if a wave is powerful enough to break your surfboard in half, think about what it can do to your spine. Seriously, I mean, people do get hurt doing that.
Because, if you can stand on a surfboard, right, a 200-pound man is and you have to stomp the board, more or less, right? You're putting it under enormous stress to control the surfing.
Yeah.
So it's meant to handle a lot of weight and strain.
It is.
And if it snapped like a twig in a wave, I'm thinking, because I don't want you jumping on my back.
Yeah. I'll give surfers credit. Most of them are aware of their abilities and don't do what they can't handle. But every now and then, it'll be a little bigger than they thought, or it'll get bigger quickly, and they don't realize, and they wind up, in a bad situation, or, and things happen when it's crowded out there, too. I know one of my former grad students, a couple of them were out there surfing, and the one got hit in the face with the tip of a surfboard. The board, was knocked over in a wave, and she was right there, and, pow, gets the tip of the board right in her upper jaw. Didn't knock her out, but she was woozy, and there were other people there who saw what happened and dragged her out of the water, blood pouring out of her nose and mouth. And she recovered, but, it just happened in an instant, something you couldn't see coming, except that it was a crowded day.
Man, yeah.
My younger son is a surfer, and his girlfriend is semi-pro, and, they have rules about, they're informal rules, but, who does what in the lineup, and
they have
there's
a protocol, my way.
Yeah, there's an etiquette of surfing.
Etiquette, thank you.
And you get people who violate that, and sometimes that causes trouble, and sometimes they get yelled at. One of my older buddies, who is a kind of a king of the surf crowd, I won't name names, but he's kind of an enforcer.
So he's not necessarily popular with the kids all the time.
He does. He's kind of like Batman, if he's on the scene and he sees bad behavior, he'll paddle over and smack the bad behaviorist. Literally, I've heard of him popping people in the head, saying, "Don't do that. That's dangerous." And he's he's a muscular guy and has the attitude, so you don't disagree with him. If he comes over and smacks you one because you cut somebody off in the lineup or did something unsafe, you did wrong, and you are not going to do it again. It's a self-enforcing kind of community. So it has to be. The cops aren't out there.
Yeah, that's... So only because we're at the top of the hour, the importance... knowing we have friends in town, and they want to go to the beach, and the only thing that I could really say was make sure you can touch the bottom well.
Yeah. Don't try something that your skill set can't handle. Be aware of what you can handle and what you can't. Lifeguards there or not. Don't put yourself at risk, and pay attention to who's around you. It's just common safety stuff. It's all too easy when you're on vacation to just, kind of relax everything and, just, stop being mindful. But the ocean is an unforgiving place.
Yep.
It's an awful lot of fun. I've had a whale of a good life studying it.
I like that. Whale of a good time.
Yeah. I mean, I love it. And I'd go back and do those things in a heartbeat. But you do have to pay attention to staying safe out there and, never exceeding your skill set. This is not Top Gun, right?
Yeah, and it's just as dangerous as jumping out of one airplane and into another. Things can go wrong, ladies and gentlemen, please.
Yeah, stuff can go wrong. But, it can be a whale of a lot of fun. I said that again. If you were mindful of, your limitations and the conditions around you, pay attention. And then you can relax. As long as you're within the bounds of what's safe and what you can handle, you should be able to enjoy yourself. I did an awful lot of snorkeling, and I was mindful that, there are boats around on the lake. So I was paying attention to where they were so they wouldn't run me over.
Because you look like just flotsam.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Especially to a drunk boat captain
happen.
with a bunch of, squealy kids on the boat.
Yeah. Boaters are another issue. I'm a pro. I'm an oceanographer, and my general impression of the boating public is about half of them are idiots. Now, everyone listening to this will say, well, I'm not one of those. It must be somebody else. But
they say that about driving, too.
Yeah. Well, drivers at least have traffic lanes, stripes on the road to guide them. In a boat, you don't have that. You can go anywhere, right? There's no speed limit except around certain no-wake zones. You're often looking farther away than right in front of you. So if there's some poor dude in the water swimming or snorkeling and you don't look
you
for
see the little red tip?
Yeah, boom. It's rare, but I've seen people out at Wrightsville with small boats and jet skis come right through the swimming area. And, are they paying attention to who's out there in front of them? I hope so. But you always have to be mindful that stuff can go wrong.
They don't realize they're actually piloting a submersible emulsifier.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right.
If you think about what an emulsifier does in the kitchen to blend unblendable things, it's going to do the same thing to mammalian and Pescean flesh.
Actually, you raise a very good point. Our crew, not mine, but Fred Scharf's crew, retrieved yesterday from the river an adult sturgeon that had been hit by a small motorboat.
Now, a sturgeon is a little bit bigger than a quarter.
Yeah, this was about a 6-foot-long fish, probably about 15 years old.
A good, 80 pounds, 100 pounds?
Probably on the range of 80 to 100. Yeah, I would guess. I saw it myself. It was clearly had been hit by a propeller near the surface, and the impact of the propeller crushed the internal organs of the fish and killed it. Yeah. So it's tragic. These are rare fish.
But that's the size of a human being.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. And
the sturgeon knows how to swim and can hear underwater and was still tore up. So a human is not going to have any of those advantages.
Right. And it still got hit. It, must have been close to the surface, obviously. The boater probably didn't see it. I would hope it was not a deliberate hit. I would assume it was an accident, but they certainly would have noticed that they hit something that big. that it's like hitting a log. But these fish are rare. They're endangered, formally, and they're protected. Now, we're not going to track down some careless boater, but this is a frequent cause of mortality for those fish in our river, is people hitting them with small boats. They're not real fast, which is part of the problem.
Okay.
They that size, they're going to have trouble getting out of the way. If you're zooming at them at 25 or 30 miles an hour, they aren't going to have much chance to escape. So, the whole thing's unfortunate, but, how many of those fish do we have in the river? Probably maybe a few hundred. So, losing one breeding age individual is a big shot against the population. Unfortunate. I just ask people to be mindful of what they're doing out there. You drive up and down the river in a boat and you think, oh, we're out in clear water. Well, you hit a fish, that's one thing. You hit a log.
You're paddling home.
Say goodbye to your lower unit, and if you hit hard enough, say hello to your windshield with your face.
Oh yeah, objects in motion.
Who wears a seatbelt in a boat? Nobody, right? And you hit something hard enough, and you get a big rude surprise. So you really have to pay attention. I've been boating on the river, and I've got a 16-foot John boat that'll go like a bat out of hell. But, I'm always on the lookout for floating logs and such. You hit one of those things, and it's going to be a bad day.
And you probably keep your speed reasonable so that you're not...
You
can see where you're going.
Yeah, that's right.
Kind of like piloting an aircraft. You want to know where... You want your brain already there before your boat gets there.
That's why they want pilots to have excellent vision. I remember being in a small plane once, and we passed another small plane going the other direction, and I was really impressed with the closing speed of the two aircraft. It was zip, just that fast.
Yeah, split second. Because you're both doing, 80 knots each, so a combined speed of well over, 150 knots.
Yeah. And, by the time I saw the other plane, I know our pilots saw them, and two small planes. And we were about the same altitude. And it may have been that we were actually legally too close or illegally too close. I don't know. But I was impressed with how fast the encounter happened. So, you often don't realize how far ahead you have to be able to see very clearly, and it often exceeds our sensory ability.
Good point.
You can't see it coming.
Yep. If you're doing 100 miles an hour, you need to see 2 miles ahead, and if you can't see the 2 miles of road, you're already at risk. So the same thing in a boat. If you can see...
Yep.
If you can travel faster than you can see...
Yeah,
it's going to be a problem.
Right. Well, it reminds me of baseball. The hardest thing in Major League sports is hitting Major League pitching, right? There's a guy 60 feet away from you throwing a ball 9,500 miles an hour. You can't see it. You literally can't see the ball. After it leaves his hand, it's going so fast, your eye physically can't track it.
Wait a minute. How far from you said how far from the mound to
60 feet.
Okay,
from
so
the mound
60
to the
feet.
plate.
Now
60 feet. Yep.
100 miles an hour is 150 feet per second. So it takes 1/3 of a second to get from the mound to your face.
Yeah, that's right.
So you have to track and respond in 1/3 of a second, and
you have to guess where that ball's going to be if you're going to hit it.
So you're swinging before he's throwing in order to get that bat. Man, that's...
Yeah.
I had never put that math together. That's ridiculous.
There have been scientific studies of pitching and hitting, and they show that the best hitters have absolutely superior vision, like 20/15 or better, and they can see that ball just a little bit better than the rest of us. And I wear glasses. I mean, I'd be hopeless against major league pitching. It's like, huh, what? I heard it go by, but I never saw it,
Yeah, what's happening?
But that's why they like the fastball, because you can't see it. It leaves his hand, and that's the last time you see that ball. And you got to kind of guess where it's going to be. And some of that is situational. All right, he's thrown 2 curveballs and a sinker. What's he going to throw next? I'm going to bet it's a fastball, and I'm going to swing here. I mean, you look at how many pitches are thrown and how many hits, right? I mean, think about that in a baseball game. They're going to throw 120 pitches between the starter and the reliever. I don't know. I'm picking a number out of the air, 120 pitches, and how many hits are you going to get out of that?
4?
5?
5, yeah.
Yeah, right. So, tells you what the odds are.
That's why batting averages are, tenths of a percent. Right?
Yeah.
A batting average of 105 is 10.5%.
Right.
Out of every 11 pitches, you might hit it once or twice.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. So, it reinforces the idea that our senses have limited capacity. We didn't evolve dealing with major league pitching. We evolved throwing spears at lions and stuff like that. You could kind of track where the spear was going, and should we run away now or should we follow up?
And that's usually on the order of a few seconds.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you can kind of see what's going to happen. But we often put ourselves in situations where we can't see that far ahead, either in time or in space, and that's when we, run the risk of getting in trouble. So, you pay attention as best you can to the situation. I'm thinking again about rip currents. You be mindful. There's a rip today, and they're often advisories. They'll warn you rip current risk is high, that sort of thing. So you carry that awareness, and then you watch the water before you get in. Where's it going? Now there's often a strong longshore current. The stronger the currents, the more likely you are to have a rip.
Okay.
That's just how that works.
But on the adult side, because some of these cats are coming from Connecticut and Maryland. Not anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the simple things would be make sure you can feel the bottom with your feet. You can stand well.
Yep.
And to pick something on the shore that you can remember.
Yep.
Right? Because I remember as a kid, my mom or one of the family members had, been remember that sign, because that's where we're going to be. Remember that sign. And, of course, I wasn't paying attention. And, 30 minutes later of chasing sandpipers and, discovering other kids in the water. And then I look up, and I can't. It's like I'm in another city. Yeah, I lost everything. And it's like, look for that sign. And I'm thinking it should be right. It's not there. Where it's right. And I'm looking up the beach, and I'm like, how?
Right.
I'm 2 miles
if you're
away.
Not in the water, you're at least safe. But if you've been swept downstream,
disorientation,
along shore, you might find yourself carried off into deeper water.
And it's not fast.
Another feature of our beaches is that most of the time you've got the beach face and then an inshore trough of somewhat deeper water and then an offshore bar. And people will swim out to that offshore bar, and you'll see them out there standing. And if you don't know better, you'll think, oh, it must be shallow all the way out. And so you go to walk out there and you get into deeper water. Well, then, okay, you know what to do. But some people will just swim out there, stand up on that bar, and assume that when they decide to come ashore, it's shallow all the way in, and it's not. And we've had people drown because they were surprised that the inshore trough is deeper. It's over their heads, and they panic. And it's rip currents kill more people than that, but that's another way to drown yourself at the beach, is not understand the topography out there and where the deeper water is, and be within your swimming capabilities. I'm aware of these things. I study them, and so every now and then I've had the opportunity to say to myself, "Oh, cool! I'm in a rip current." I mean, I've had that experience. Oh yeah, I read about this in a book, and recognized it, knew right away what was going on and what to do.
Which was not panic.
Right. Yeah, I'm kind of slow on the uptake, in the sense that I don't panic. It's kind of like, oh gosh, I read about this. I remember that.
Right. You're too confused to be panicked. You're still trying to figure it out.
It's like, oh, cool,
Boy, I'm a strong swimmer. Look at this.
and then I remember my training before I freak out. And that's actually one of the things they selected for in the dive training. All throughout the early phases, especially, they did things to us to see if we would panic. And I knew that's what they were doing, because it's panicking. It's doing something dead wrong that kills you.
It's just like in pilot training. They'll kill an engine in the middle of your simulator check.
Absolutely.
Just to see how you respond.
Right. You've probably heard that phrase, the right stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's about test pilots and the guys who became the first astronauts. And the pilots with the right stuff are there up in a plane that no one's ever flown before. They're test pilots, right? And
they're going faster
the plane
than...
the plane is diving to the ground, and the pilot is radioing back to control. Well, I've tried A, I've tried B, I've tried C. None of that worked. What should I try next?
Without a waver in his voice.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's the job. And,
just
these
like
are guys
Houston, we have a problem. I mean, that...
Yeah. Nerves of steel. They're trained. They're problem solvers. They do not panic. You think through the situation. If you've been properly trained, thinking through the situation is fast. You can respond quickly. I know what to do, so I'm going to do it right now. And, that's how you survive. And all too often people haven't been properly trained, or, just forget, panic and make the wrong moves, and then you get in trouble. So,
That's why we have somebody with experience to help us on the Asylum. Get the word out to people that, yes, summer is here. It's going to be wonderful. Yep. Beaches are absolutely wonderful.
Absolutely.
But there's absolutely nothing in that ocean or on that beach worth dying for.
Nope. Yeah, just,
we like your money. We like your tourists. We like you being here. We like your happy smiles. We don't want to ship you home in a bag.
Yeah, we want you to come back many times and enjoy. That's the best of all worlds. Most people have a sense of their limitations, but every now and then someone exceeds those limitations and gets in trouble, or doesn't have the situational awareness that they should have,
or the liquid bravado has affected their judgment.
Yeah, that's a major issue, especially with boaters. Too many people drink and drive their boats, and it impairs your judgment. It impairs your sensory abilities. It tends to slow down your reflexes and all that kind of stuff. And so, about half of all boating accidents involve alcohol. So, that's a factor. It's so obvious I shouldn't have to say much about it, right? Yeah, don't drink and drive, right?
Don't drink and boat, don't drink and fly. There's a whole bunch of things you should
have a designated driver in your boat, someone who is sober. And if you're all bombed, out the wazoo, drive very slowly and very carefully.
They won't let you get a tattoo if you're drunk.
Yeah.
So that's driving a boat when you're drunk, they're
bad idea.
Yeah.
You ask what could go wrong. Well, there's a long list of things that could go wrong, and unfortunately, it happens too often. What can I say?
Well, you can say you're welcome, because I'm about to say thank you, because this has been one of the best public service announcements, I think, for a show, because we know it's coming. We know it's fascinating. We know it's beautiful. We know it's peaceful, blissful. It's amazing on so many levels, but it can kill you. So please, let's, get the information out there. And that's part of the Cape Fear Riverwatch as well, because the quality of water and the safety of water is all part of the stewardship, that we can still enjoy it and not be afraid of it.
Exactly. Enjoy it and be safe. That'll make it more fun. The last thing you want is to have an accident, and your memory of that, if you survive, is a negative one. We don't want that. We want people to enjoy the resource that we own, and to use it responsibly. You can have a whale of a good time. I've every time I've been on the water, rain, sunshine, whatever, I've had a good time out there.
Whether you're on the water or 10 feet, 50 feet, 100 feet under
it. Yeah. Every experience has so far been a good one in one way or another. I mean, even the dive where I screwed up, like I told you, I look back on that as a learning experience. I exceeded my limits and should have known better. And so, I'm that much more careful now.
You were put back on the path of righteousness.
That's right. That's right.
And you will learn this, my son, and carry it with you into the world.
I swore off the path of sin and depravity. That's right.
Well, Dr. Cahoon, thank you so much for your time again this morning. This has been an incredible conversation, and certainly opens up a lot more of the safety concerns. And I know I appreciate your time. I know it's, Wednesdays are one of my favorites because of this. So we are now a half hour into my friend's program. So I, as much as I don't want to, I have to turn this thing over to Consumer Choice Radio in Yael, that all the fans of that show are going to enjoy a completely commercial-free version of that show. And we're still going to run into the next hour. So thank you again. And if I don't hear from you before Wednesday, we're going to have a lot more to talk about.
Sure. My pleasure.
I appreciate it. And with that in mind, I need to find one of these. There it is. The Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad, needs to go get a beach towel, ladies and gentlemen. So we will see you tomorrow right here on the Big Talker Network. Thanks for tuning in. Please hit the like, subscribe, and share button. Hit the website and all that good stuff. See you. Bye.
Keeping Bald Head Island informed. The Big Talker 106.7 FM WFBT, Carolina Beach.
Oh, and hello, and welcome to Consumer Choice Radio, broadcasting on the 19th, 20th, 21st, 22nd of May.
Yes.
Whatever day it might be. If you're listening on the podcast version or listening on the weekend over the radio, welcome to Consumer Choice Radio, broadcasting across North America. I'm one half of your host, Yael Osowski. You can tell I'm happy about the beautiful May weather. And I'm joined, as always, by my colleague David Clement, who's in a new locale, looking good, a little bit of a tan, and he's having a good time. How goes it, David?
It's good. Coming to you from Prince Edward County, Ontario's other winery and cidery region. So yeah, things are good. It's beautiful out here, minus the rain right now, but Lots to talk about.
I don't even know what direction you're going in right now. There's a lot that we could do.
I mean, there's Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos are on the tweeters, starting to say things. Jason Kenney has resigned. So we will have a new premier of Alberta at some point in the leadership race for the United Conservative Party is about to heat up. I don't know where you want to go first. Do you want to go with the tweeters or do you want to go Alberta politics?
Wow. There's a lot. Oh, my goodness. Well, we were a bit heavy on the leadership stuff last week, so I would recommend that episode, consumerchoiceradio.com. I think the